Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I'll be doing a cast assessment for Survivor, Island of the Idols. And sorry that this video is so late. I have been working on a lot of reviews for shows that just recently ended, like Survivor South Africa and Australian Survivor. But now it's finally time to focus on Island of the Idols, which does start in a few days. So my preparation for this video was essentially I just listened to the RJP interviews. I did read the bios on the day that they were released, but to be honest, at this point, I don't really have a good memory of them. So really, most of my opinions here will be based off of those interviews. And something else I'll be doing in this video is selecting my winner pick, which I actually don't know who I'm going to pick as of right now. I mean, kind of like my Survivor 40 cast assessment video, I'm coming into this pretty blind. I mean, I'm not really doing a lot of prep for this video. I just have all the pictures of the cast in front of me, and I'm just going to run through them. So let's talk about the cast overall. The cast is really strong. I actually really like this group. I mean, I believe it's already been confirmed that 18 of the 20 people here were applicants, and the 2 recruits are like the 2 sports people on the cast. So it's 18 applicants. I think that's probably one of the highest ratios in the history of the show. I'm someone who does think recruits are necessary for reality television. Mind you, I do think it should probably be like a 70-30 sort of split. But I think they did a really good job of the cast here. Again, like, there are no real duds to me preseason. I mean, there's a couple people who just aren't as interesting as others. But overall, I really like this cast. It seems like a game-savvy cast. A lot of super fans here. So hopefully it turns out to be pretty fun. My only worry here is the Island of the Idols. I mean, from what we've heard now about the Island of the Idols is that every single week there's going to be like some sort of challenge on Island of the Idols where if you succeed in that challenge, like essentially if you pass the test, you get an advantage. And I worry that it's going to take up a lot of time. And since we're still only at 60-minute episodes for the season outside of like the premiere and the finale, I don't know how that's going to work with this cast. Like, are they going to be overshadowed by the twist? I really hope that's not the case, but I could definitely see it being a possibility. So again, there's a lot of people to talk through. There's 20 people here, so let's just get started. So we're going to be starting off with the Lyro tribe, I believe they're called, which is the Orange tribe. And my opinion of the tribe as a whole is it looks like a fun group. I think this is probably the more fun tribe out of the 2. I think this one's filled with more fun characters, while the other tribe is probably going to be the stronger tribe in challenges. But at the same time, this tribe isn't completely weak either. I mean, there's a lot of physical people on this tribe. I mean, you have Dean, you have Aaron, you have Elizabeth, you have even someone like Ronnie, you have Missy. I mean, there's a decent amount of physical people on this tribe, so I wouldn't count them out either. But then again, going by Survivor tradition, the Orange tribe usually is the tribe that ends up losing more often, so probably not a good sign for them. But let's go through each person one by one, starting with Ronnie Bard, the poker player. And I like Ronnie. I think Ronnie, to me, came off as a lot more personable than I thought he was going to be. I mean, coming from the history of poker players on Survivor, we've had, what, Jean Robert, who was terrible. We had Garrett, who was amazingly terrible. And then we had Anna Kate, who was solid, but I mean, she's not really that big of a poker player. So Ronnie was someone that I was expecting to be a lot more like the Garrett and the Jean Robert, but he was actually pretty solid socially, I felt like. Could see him overplaying. He's obviously a smart guy. To be a professional poker player, you need to be. I think he came off well in the interview. That being said, I really don't see him as the winner. I don't see him getting really anywhere towards the end game. I think he's someone that will eventually be perceived as pretty schemy. I think you could tell that there's something sketchy about this guy, and if I was out there, I would definitely have him on my radar. I could see him making the merge. I definitely think that's a possibility, but I don't really see him getting anywhere near the end game. I probably see him going out around like 9 or 10. But now moving on to Elizabeth Beazle, the Olympian, and I really liked her. I was actually surprised I liked her. She is one of the recruits on the season, but I thought she was really personable. And it seemed like she had a pretty good head for the game. I mean, I don't see her being the biggest strategist in the world. I definitely don't see that. I think she'll be a competent player. I kind of see her kind of like the Ashley Nolan. That's kind of what I'm expecting out of her. Someone who's not necessarily in charge, but someone who can definitely talk strategically. Someone who will at least get 1 or 2 like really close allies and can probably run the game if they make it towards the end game. The problem is I don't necessarily see her winning. I could see her in the final 3. I think that's definitely a possibility. However, I just feel like with the cast that we have, I feel like it's very unlikely that she's going to be the biggest player out of the final 3. And because of that, I don't see her winning a jury vote, but I'm interested in seeing how it plays out for her because I do think she seems like a savvy player to some degree. Next up, we got Missy Bird, who I really love Missy Bird. I mean, her story about her brain tumor and everything is just completely ridiculous. That was like really mind-blowing, but her within the game, I think she's essentially a savvy Michaela. I think she's essentially has the body type of a Michaela, like a sort of taller, athletic female. And I do feel like she'll be very strong in challenges. She does have an army background, so I think that'll definitely help her there as well. But she's also a super fan. She knows the game. And I was actually really impressed with her interview. She's definitely in contention for who I'm going to select as my winner pick. Then we got Dean, who I think Dean is one of those that was pretty boring. I didn't think Dean was particularly interesting in his interview. However, I don't think he'll be a terrible player. I mean, actually, it can go one of two ways. I feel like he'll either be like an Alec Marlino or he'll be like a JP. I think it's going to be one of those two. I kind of lean, closer to an Alec Marlino, not as strong though. I mean, again, he's not as big of a fan, I don't feel like, as Alec Marlino. But he doesn't seem dumb though. I mean, he just seems like pretty average guy. Obviously, he looks like a big physical threat. I mean, I believe he was a basketball player. He's probably going to be good at the challenges, but at the same time, I think he's going to be such a big threat that I don't see him getting past, like, the final, I don't know, final 8 or so. And he's definitely going to be an early merge boot if he does get to the merge. But to be honest, we're even at the point in Survivor now where, like, even physical strength doesn't really matter that much, even in the pre-merge. So I could even see him going out post-swap as well. But I don't know, I didn't get much out of him from a character perspective. I think he's going to be pretty boring on the show. And to be honest, I just don't see him doing particularly well either, so not really my favorite on the cast. Then we got Tom Laidlaw, who is the first Canadian castaway, even though he doesn't even live in Canada, so it's like, I mean, is this really that big of a deal? But he is a former NHL player, and he seems fine. I thought his interview was good. I mean, he is the oldest person on the cast. Obviously, he could be an easy first boot as well. However, I don't really see that being the case. I don't think they're going to go that route on this season. I could see him being like the figurehead of his alliance, kind of like a Dale Wentworth. And I do think if he makes it to the merge, I mean, he can have a pretty clear run there. I mean, I could see Tom at the end of the game. Again, I don't know if he wins the game. I think he might have a tough time winning due to his background and also the fact that he might not be perceived to be the brains of the operation. He's not really a top winner pick candidate for me, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if he did make it there. Then we got Aaron Meredith, who I kind of have similar opinions of to Dean. I mean, I think he's another one that's so physical that I feel like there's no way this guy's getting to the end of the game. I think Aaron seems like the person that will always be the leader of his alliance. I'm going to be pretty mind-blown if he's not the one to gather up the initial majority on that tribe. And he was someone that I was impressed by in the interviews. And I did think he was a pretty savvy guy. I mean, he was someone that always talked about how he was willing to do whatever was needed, but he didn't want to do whatever was needed. It was kind of a weird thing. I don't see him getting past, like, the final 9. I kind of see a similar trajectory for him that I saw for Eric, where Eric from Edge of Extinction I'm talking about, where he went out at the final 12, pretty much the first time that alliance could have flipped on each other. And I kind of see Aaron going out in the same way, if not even possibly earlier, like in the post-swap sort of area, where again, I think is kind of leaning towards nowadays where that's where you get rid of big threats before they even reach the merge. Now for Vince, and Vince screams out to me pre-merge. He could be a fun character. He is someone that seems to have a lot of personality, but I really don't see him making it that far. I mean, I don't necessarily see him as like a social outcast or anything. I don't think he'll be like the automatic first boot by any means. But I can definitely see him playing too hard, too fast, or him just being looked at as kind of expendable. So I don't really see him making it far, but I do think if he makes it to the merge, he could make a run. Again, he's one of these players that if you give them some runway, I think they can pick up some of the outsiders and really make a run for it, but I just don't feel like he's going to make it there. Then we got Karisma, who I really liked. I really liked her in an interview. She's a super fan of the show. She seems to know the show pretty well. She's the first Indian person to ever play the game, which is kind of weird that it took us 39 seasons to get that. I do worry for her. I think she's someone that I will definitely be rooting for, but I just don't know if she'll make it to the merge. Again, she's another one that I think if she makes it to the merge, she'll do well. I mean, there are a lot of physical threats on this season. More than likely, those physical threats are going to be the first few boots after the merge, so if she can get there, I think she'll make a pretty deep run. But I don't think she's the most physical person on the tribe, so I think that's kind of a downside for her. And also, I feel like she's someone that's going to come off as pretty intelligent. And I think because of that, that's going to also be pretty difficult for her. And as I said, I think this orange tribe is probably going to be going to tribal a few times. So while I do want to see her go far, I don't know if I necessarily see it in the cards. And now we got Elaine Stott, who was fantastic in the interview. I mean, she is a really fun character. She's kind of like the second coming of something like a Lauren Rimmer, but like kind of mixing like Lauren Rimmer and like Big Tom is kind of what I got from her. Like, she seems like a really fun personality. I think she's someone that isn't like the biggest super fan of the game. Like, I don't think she knows the ins and outs of the game, but I do think she's competent enough to create like basic strategies. But I do worry that I don't think she can win the game, if I'm being honest. She is very, very likable, but I don't feel like that sort of player wins Survivor anymore. I feel like at this point, that's the type of player that makes it to the final 3 and then loses with 0 votes. I feel like people on the juries of Survivor at this point really care about the gameplay of the game, and I don't feel like Elaine is the type of person that's going to be orchestrating blindsides and really dominating the game. Also, I feel like Elaine is another person that's kind of like an obvious first boot. Now, I don't think that'll necessarily be the case, but I think that's also going to be a tough spot for her to get through, is that initial tribe dynamic. So overall, not super high on Elaine's chances of winning the game, but I think she'll be a really fun character. Then we got Chelsea Walker, who I think is probably another one of my top contenders for my winner pick. I think she's someone that, she's obviously a massive fan of the game. She's someone who's been following it for a while. She works at IMDb, and I believe she's even made videos for IMDb about Survivor. And in her interviews, she came off as someone who's really competitive, really driven. I think she's someone that can do very, very well. However, I can also see her being someone who plays too hard, too fast. And because of that, I could see her being an early boot. But I also feel like if she's able to make it to like the final 9, she's someone that can gather up all the troops and really lead the charge from that point on. So I do really like Chelsea. I think she'll be decent strategically. I don't know how big of a character she'll be. She'll probably be fine, but she's definitely a winner candidate for me. Alright, that's the Lyro tribe. Now let's move on to Vokai, who I mentioned before, I think is probably going to be the winning tribe. Again, I mean, like, we do have physical people on this tribe as well. I mean, we have Tommy, we have Jack, we have Nora. Even someone like Janet, despite being the older woman, seems like a pretty physical person. I think this will probably be the winning tribe. And again, they're wearing purple, so I do think this tribe will more than likely be winning the challenges. But we'll see. Again, like, obviously that's just superstition. That's just a dumb Survivor curse sort of thing. But I could definitely see it still continuing here. So let's go through all the Vokai members. We're starting off with Lauren Beck. And okay, Lauren is someone that when I watched, because I did watch a couple of those 1-minute videos that were posted on Twitter, and I watched hers, and to me she came off as very fake, and I didn't really like her. However, after listening to the RJP interview, I really liked her. I thought she was a lot of fun. I kind of realized that it isn't fake. I mean, that's just who she is. And I think after listening to her whole interview, I definitely came out of it very positive on her. I think she's a very fun personality. I think she's someone that's going to be a lot of fun on the show. I think her edit might be similar to that of like a Angelina. Not necessarily with the villainous undertone, but more so with like a lot of like really dumb things happening to her and a lot of like just comic relief coming from her. And then also I think she'll be a competent player. Now, through her interviews, I didn't really get a good sense of what her strategy is going to be outside of I'm going to be social, which is like the typical answer. But I think she'll be a lot of fun. Again, she's another one that I think is probably up there on my winner candidates. Next person we got is Molly, and I thought Molly was kind of boring, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think she has this fun aesthetic. Like, when I saw her cast photo, I was thinking, oh, she's going to be a kooky character or something, but then she's kind of just fine. I mean, again, I was thinking of like a Courtney Merritt or something, but now she's kind of boring. I mean, she's kind of just like average. I mean, she didn't seem to be like the most game savvy person in the world, but not someone that was actively bad. She didn't seem like someone that is super physical either, but not bad physically. I think she'll be decent socially, but again, probably not the best. So, I mean, she just seems like an average person on the cast, and who knows, that might lead to a win. For me, I'm not feeling super high on her. I mean, I'm feeling like she'll probably be a mid-game boot, whether that be like a post-swap boot or an early to mid-merge boot. I don't really see her in the end game, but again, I could be wrong. Next up, we got Janet, who seems like she's going to be a decent player. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, she seems to be game savvy enough. Again, she's another one of these that isn't like a super fan of the show, but has been watching the show continuously. I think she'll really help out during the swimming challenges. Obviously, she is a lifeguard and has been for years. She'll probably actually be somewhat similar to Shane Gould from Australian Survivor, where, I mean, Shane Gould was on the outs for a lot of the pre-merge, so maybe that's not a great sign. But I do get good vibes off of Janet. I think she's someone who's, like, I liked her in the interview. And while I wouldn't be, like, mind-blown if she went home early, I do see a somewhat deep run for her. But again, not really a winner pick candidate for me. Next up, we got Kelly Kim, who is coming into the season with a cold. So that's probably not a great sign. I mean, I think that's just easy enough that she could be the first boot because of that. But again, if her tribe is able to win enough challenges, she could definitely overcome that cold, and it really will end up not becoming a factor. But outside of that, she's fine. I kind of expected to get annoyed from her through her interview, but I really just didn't. And to be honest, I came out of her interview not really having much of an opinion on her. I mean, considering the recent trend with Asian women on the show, that isn't a great sign for her. With most of them going out right at the beginning of the game, most of them pre-swap. I mean, she could obviously continue that trend, but I don't know, I could see her being the beneficiary of a lot of challenge wins from her tribe, and then if she's able to make it to the merge, again, I don't see why you would take her out too early. So I think she'll pretty much be a lock for like the final 7 or so if she was able to get there. But it's just going to be a matter of whether she's able to build the relationships and the connections that she needs to navigate through that end game. And I don't really see it. I mean, she's not really someone who I'm really considering as a winner pick. So there's that. Then we got Jason Linden, who, I mean, he was fine in the interview. He didn't really come off as like the best character in the world, but he seemed fine. But, I mean, he kind of gave me kind of a less charismatic Nick Wilson vibe. Really, I see him as a mix of, like, Nick Wilson and Rob Cesternino. And, I mean, that's a good combination of players there. Again, I don't find him the most fascinating person, but I did feel like he came off as pretty intelligent in his interviews. He's not the biggest threat out there, but he's also not the smallest one to where people are going to disregard him entirely. I think if he were able to make it to the end of the game, he more than likely is going to be looked at as one of the more strategic people there. I do think he has a good winner chance. So he is definitely going to be within my top contenders. But, I mean, to be fair, I mean, he could also be like kind of like a war dog sort of figure too, where he probably plays too much and then eventually gets himself into a bad position, gets taken out mid-merge, but who knows? Next, we're moving on to Jack. And Jack kind of reminds me of a Jay Starrett. I mean, like, he kind of reminds me of Tyler from Big Brother at first, but I kind of realized he's not that intelligent. So I think Jay is probably the next level. I think he seems like a competent player. Again, he has this sort of surfer dude sort of look. I don't really have a great sense of how he's going to end up playing. I think he is someone that is more than likely going to make it to the merge. I find it very, very difficult to see him being taken out for like the penultimate tribal before the merge. I think the only way he goes out before the merge is in a Joe scenario from Worlds Apart, where he's so dominant in the challenges that people realize that he's going to dominate if he makes it to the merge, so then they vote him out right beforehand. But again, I don't feel like he's going to be that dominant. I don't think he's going to be exactly like a Joe or an Aussie. But I do think he'll definitely be competent in challenges. Strategically, I'm just not sure where he's going to go. And I came into his interview thinking he was definitely going to be a winner pick candidate for me, but I don't know. He was just kind of fine, really. Next up, we're moving on to Nora, who looks like definitely the strongest physically out of all the women here. But I also think that's a knock against her. Being physical is obviously going to help her in the early game, but I do think by the time the merge, she's just going to be looked at as such a big threat physically that I don't really see her making it too far there. And to be honest, I can even see her being an early boot. I didn't really get great vibes from her interview. I mean, in her interview with Josh Wigler, like, she just kept on talking the entire way through, not really even allowing Josh to really say anything back. And I think that's something that not a great sign for her on Survivor. I also feel like she's someone that could easily rub people the wrong way. I think she, to be honest, I don't expect her to go far at all. I think she's going to be a very early boot. Again, I think her tribe is probably going to win challenges, so I don't know if I see her going very, very early, but I think post-swap, I can definitely see her being one of the first boots there, even though she is probably one of the most physical people on the entire cast. Next up, we got Tommy. And I really like Tommy. I mean, Tommy's another one that I didn't really expect to like. I kind of saw his cast photo and thought he'll be kind of boring, but he seemed really into the game. I mean, he seemed like a massive fan of the game. He seemed really giddy in his interview. And I am excited to see him play. Again, I'm not going to pick him as my winner pick. I think he's too big, too physical to really win this game. I feel like he's definitely going to be picked off. But he's the type of player that if he gets to the end of the game, I do think it's very likely that he wins. I think he is someone that will come off as strategic enough. He's obviously physical enough. I think he's someone that could find idols. I do think he has it all, but I think because of that, he doesn't. I think because of that, he's going to be a target, and I don't think he'll make it to the very end. I think he'll be a really likable presence on the show, and I think he'll be a fun player. Next up, we got Jamal Shipman, and Jamal was really fun. I actually really liked his interview as well. Again, I like this entire cast, but Jamal is someone that I could see doing pretty well. I think based on his pregame interviews, he's someone that I feel like a lot of people are going to really attach to. And I feel like he could easily make the merge just from that. And then once he gets to merge, again, I don't think he's going to be one of the biggest threats there. I could think he can make it to the end game. But I think if he makes it towards the end game, I think he's probably going to be looked at as a big threat by that point just because he's pretty likable. And I think he's savvy enough to at least make some game moves. So I do feel good about Jamal. I don't know his winner chances. Again, he's not someone that I could see winning a lot of immunity challenges or anything. I think if he's put into a bad spot towards the end of the game, I don't think he can win out. So I don't think that's particularly great there. But he is someone to look out for, in my opinion, and someone that should be pretty fun on the show as well. And the final person we're going to be talking about is Dan Spilo? Whatever. And he's another one of the older people on the cast. I mean, he's 48. I mean, he's not like super old, but I believe he's the third oldest. And I really loved his interview. I thought he was amazing in the interview. I mean, he was probably one of my favorite interviews of the entire cast, but I don't feel great about his game. Not necessarily that I think he'll go early. I don't think that's the case at all, actually. I think he's another one of these guys that I think could fit into the majority, not be like the leader of the majority by any means, but I think he could fit into that majority. And also, again, I think this tribe isn't losing a lot of challenges anyway, so he might be fine on that aspect. My issue with Dan is the fact that it doesn't seem like he wants to win the game. It seems like that's kind of a non-issue with him. It's like, by the way he talked, he kept on talking as if Final 3 was good enough. It's like he just wants to make it to the end of the game. He doesn't want to win the game. And because of that, I could definitely see him being someone that makes it to the end and gets no votes. That being said, again, I think he'll be a fun personality. He was a really fun interview, so I don't think he's completely dead in the water. But I just don't see that it's very likely that he wins when it doesn't even seem like he himself wants to. So yeah, that's the entire cast. So essentially, who I've narrowed down my winner picks to are Chelsea, Jason, Lauren, and Missy. And this is kind of tough. I mean, I think all of them have obviously potential to win the game. As I mentioned with Chelsea, I do feel like I can see her coming in playing too hard too fast. So I do think I'm going to leave her out of my winner contention. Lauren is someone that I have a really good feeling about as well, but I do feel like she's too good socially. I feel like she's so fun and bubbly that I feel like it's very unlikely that they're going to let her get to the end. Again, I don't feel like she's a physical specimen by any means. I don't think she's going to win a whole bunch of challenges. So I'm going to leave her out of the running as well. So really, it comes down to Jason and Missy. And this one's kind of tough. So Jason is someone that I do think could play the game very well. I think he's someone that could be looked at as an afterthought until it's a bit too late. While Missy, I feel like will probably be more in front. Again, she's one of the more physical females on the cast, but she's also one of the most savvy females on the cast, in my opinion. So it's kind of tough between the two. And while I really want to pick Missy, I do think I'm going to go with Jason. I feel like Jason is the safer pick here. I think my brain is saying Jason, but my heart is saying Missy. And I don't know. I'm just, something is telling me that Jason is going to do well. And I could be completely wrong. He is going to be, in my opinion, on the stronger of the two tribes. He is someone that seems to be strategic, but not overly strategic. And someone that is social, but not overly social. Again, physical, not overly physical. Again, he's kind of just an average all-around player. Kind of similar to a Nick Wilson. And who knows? I could be completely wrong. I mean, he could be the first boot. He could be one of the first few boots. But I don't feel like it's as likely. Again, I don't really see him going pre-merge. But really, I'm probably going to be rooting for Missy more so than Jason, if I'm being honest. But I don't know, my gut just says Jason, so I think I'm going to go with it. So there we go. Those are my opinions on the cast of Survivor Island of the Idols. And sorry for getting this out so late. Sorry if this video seemed pretty unprepared. To be honest, I've been really busy recently. It was actually kind of just tough just to even get time to actually get this video done. Now coming up, I will also be doing another cast assessment pretty soon, and that will be for Australian Survivor All-Stars. I'll be trying to get that out probably in about a week or so, I don't know, but that should be fun to talk about. But for now, that's all I gotta say about Island of the Idols. Obviously, I will be doing a review when the season is done, so stay tuned for that. But for now, that's the video. Thank you for watching.